welcome to the serial panel, to be serialized. I am your moderator, Clarissa North, except I am not because I've had to take over. I'm Rodney P. Smith, and today we have Abigail Smith, Althea Liu, and Anna Elbow. We're all very experienced with serial writing, so I think we're going to go right into it. But before we do that, just remember in this panel you can win up to 100, well, not 100, but yes, Wattpad is giving away packs of 100 coins. You need to just write "We Thrive Together" in the chat as well as your username, and you get entered into the chance to win. The drawing will happen after the panel. Okay, so we are going to go into the panel here, unless Clarissa suddenly appears. And the first question is, what does a serial writer do differently from a novel writer? Walk us through your process. Oh, look, here's Clarissa.
All right, I guess I'll get started.
Guys, hi. Sorry, I'm really sorry I'm late. I don't know what happened there. Hiccups.
Go now.
Hi. Hi. I'm so sorry. Would you like me to start the first question, or have you all been introduced?
We've been introduced, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so let's pretend that never happened and start with Althea because, why not? I'm so sorry about that. Internet. What does a serial writer do differently from a novel writer? Please walk us through your process.
All right, so I think the biggest difference between serial writing and novel writing is the fact that there are much shorter chapters in serial writing. When I used to write novels back in the day, there used to be like 6,000 to like 10,000 word chapters, and they were very, very long, and there's no way you can scroll through all of that text on your phone. So nowadays, I always try to keep my chapters at maybe around 1,000 to 2,000 words, or in some cases, if it's the first 3 chapters, then maybe around 500 to 600 words. That way, it's easy for the reader sort of to click forward, and they feel like they've accomplished something by sort of getting through the first 3 chapters. And in that vein, is because you have such short chunks of writing, it's good to release them pretty rapidly, like maybe even like 2 times a week, or at least 1 time a week. So it's good to have a writing schedule and to maybe have a bit of a buffer writing so that you can release it according to your schedule and not have people sort of wander off because you haven't been around for a while. So weekly updates, short chapters, and it also helps to like the characters you're writing about because you will be with them for quite a while. In most cases, like these books tend to go on for many full-length novels. So it's good to enjoy being with your main character, and even the side characters, because it's good that sometimes you can write like little side quests, like sort of like in a video game where you can go off and do like a little side story in addition to the main story. But in that vein, also hold off on the main conflict resolution because you want to only release that after you know like where you want the reader to go next. Like if you have like a bunch of books, then you can sort of tell the reader at the end, oh, this one is done, but be sure to check out book 2. And that way maybe they can just click forward and just immediately start off on a new book and not sort of like disappear. Anyway, that's pretty much it.
Anna, what do you have to say?
I kind of, with writing in your traditional novel, you have your beginning, your middle, your conflict, your end. And with serial writing, you can do whatever you want. You can bring in other characters, you can have other subplots going, and you can just keep going on forever. But I always tell people to think of it as almost a TV show with episodes, and every episode kind of has to have a little hook to make you want to watch the next episode, whether that's next week or whatever. And when I think of the subplots, I don't know if anybody watches this. It's my favorite show ever, This Is Us. And there's 3 different 3 siblings, and all the stories are interwoven, and it just can keep going and going and going. So I always think of that. I do most of my serial writing for Radish, and they have a bit of a sweet spot for word count, so it's about 1,500 words, although I tend to be closer to 1,500 to 2,000 words. you can really write whatever length you want, but you have to also think, if you're monetizing, how much investment are you making in a chapter if it's going to be 5, 6, 7,000 words? Other thing, story always needs to be going forward. People don't want to read or pay for reading a story that is standing still, that, isn't really going anywhere. Last thing, if you want to take a present story and serialize it, let your readers know, don't surprise them. They may think, well, isn't this over? I read this book and what's happening now? So let them know it's a little different than the traditional way of writing a book.
Absolutely. Abby, what's your process and what do you think makes a serial writer different from a novel writer?
Yeah, I mean, I've got actually an ongoing series. It's 7 books. I'm serializing the 6th book right now. And yeah, I'd echo everything they said. It's like, keep it fresh. Every chapter should have a value change from negative to positive or positive to negative. There's always, like, I have multiple point of view characters, a large cast, and yeah, like I choose, is this scene, what point of view is the best character to portray this scene from? But yeah, as far as hooks go, it's like, I think there's a whole bunch of different ways you can go. It's like there's romantic tension, there's the expectation of a mystery being solved, there's an expectation of justice being served, and there's interpersonal power dynamics, interpersonal relationship dynamics. There's all kinds of ways that you can kind of ratchet up the tension. And I just really like that. So, yeah.
A lot of what you guys have talked about here, one thing I just want to pick up on is sort of, length of chapters as well. So between traditional and serial writing, clearly there's a real difference between writing a traditional book and writing in serials. What are your opinions with the sweet spot for chapter lengths and how people react to certain chapter lengths?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Althea.
Oh,
Abby, you're ready to go, Abby. What have you got to say?
oh wait. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I find that with shorter chapter lengths, it's easier to retain readers. They tend to click forward more, especially in the beginning when they're not really invested in the story. So it's really good, I think, especially in the beginning, to have like short, easy to manage chapters that people can maybe read on the bus or on the subway, just so that they can feel like, oh look, I've read like 6 chapters of this book. I really like it, And then that's when you can probably throw a paywall in there. Maybe they'll click forward, who knows. Yeah, I know that's
Anna?
it for my opinion on chapters.
I kind of write in that 2,000 word sweet spot, but there's always people you're not going to make happy. I mean, I think that's all I can really say to that. You could write a 5,000 word chapter, but can you sustain that in a serial where you're supposed to keep going quick, next kind of thing? So I don't know. That's my answer. It's not a good one.
That's an honest answer. An honest answer is always appreciated. Abby, how do you feel about the length difference between trad and writing serial?
Yeah, I mean, I would never really go for like 5,000 or more. I think that in traditional publishing, you see that more often. My sweet spot is really 2,000 to 3,000 words, and sometimes I will go to 4,000 words. Readers do seem to like the longer chapters in mine. But for me personally, if I think that every scene should have that value change, and if I need more than 4,000 words to tell it, I will split it because that's just too many.
Fair enough. Well, let's go to Anna with question 2. So, could you please describe the pros and cons of monetized serial writing versus free serial writing?
I think with free, and I could be wrong, maybe Abby and Althea will disagree, but you have less constraints. You can write when you want, what you want. You don't have to be too concerned about, do I have a missing quotation mark? Whereas once you get into monetization, it starts to get a little more serious in the sense of you may be presented with a contract that you are asked to sign. And if you are a writer and you're out there, you've probably been solicited already with something flashy about a non-exclusive contract, and you can write on our app and make lots of money. I'm going to take it there just for a sec because I think a lot of people see these contracts and they get so excited and they've been offered this and it's non-exclusive. It has to be harmless. If you want to get into monetization and you're offered a contract, have somebody look at it. Either a lawyer, there are organizations like Arthur's Guild who has a sample contract and explains all these clauses to you. I'm not mentioning any names, but there are predatory apps out there and they pop up every minute and they want your work and they want it forever. They want all your rights to it, in some cases where they want distribution rights, they want translation rights. They don't need these rights. You just need to be on their app and with very little constraint. One other sneaky little thing they might throw in there is a next work, which is normal in the business for a publisher to want to invest in their writers and want a next work. But I turned down a contract about a year ago where every next work had to go through that app and they had to have first right of refusal. And I thought, this is crazy. What if I have another publisher or another app and it's a great deal, but no, I have to go through app A first and give them 60 days to say no. Little things like that are some things I would say watch out for. And one other thing, some apps have all these crazy little fees they sneak into their arrangements and agreements where you think, my book was crazy. I saw they sent me a statement. It made $5,000 in 4 months or quarterly or whatever. And then you find out, well, you're only entitled to the net. And that is with all the deductions, like perhaps marketing fees, administration fees. And next thing you know, you've got maybe 10% of that. I just want to add, platform fees are legit. I know people get a little upset when they see the deduction of them, but they are high because platforms like Apple and Google do charge 30% a fee to these apps. So just keep that out there. That's my spiel on monetization and contracts.
I mean, it's a good spiel. I mean, it's one that definitely people need to be wary of. I mean, at the end of the day, it does sound like there are some serious pitfalls with monetization, but if you are wise to them, you can see around them. Abby, how do you feel about the pros and cons of monetizing serial writing versus free?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Anna said. I've definitely seen people regret contracts they've signed, especially if it's like, your life's work or 5 years of your life's work or something. Nobody wants to lose that. Personally, like I have been sticking with Wattpad so far. I'm probably going to expand to Royal Road and a few other free apps because you can tie that in with Patreon. There's like Patreon and Ko-Fi and other kind of like services where you basically still own your audience. You're not relying on some other app to gatekeep. The gatekeeping apps, for whatever reason, I'm a little wary of that. I just don't want somebody else having control over my work. So I'm steering clear of those for now, at least for this current series I'm working on, which is huge. I think if I had like something shorter, something that I'm willing to throw to the wolves for a little while, I might try it in the future, but not with this one. And just to add to what Anna said, if you're on Facebook, there's a group called Writing and Selling on Fiction Apps, which is a pretty good group for just chatting about this stuff and finding out the predatory contracts and getting behind the scenes gossip on them. Yeah.
I like that you added gossip. Writers tend to live for gossip. We do love it. Althea, how do you feel about the pros and cons of monetized versus free serial writing?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with Anna and Abby. Well, definitely do research if you're presented with any kind of contract. You'd probably, especially just want to go on a message board or on Google just to sort of get an idea of other people who have done it and what they thought about it. Because that's really the best way to sort of, sometimes you can't really read some of these contracts because they're kind of written in legalese, and ordinary people probably just, can't really make any sense of it. I mean, it's good if you can to consult an agent if you're able to get one, or a lawyer. You may have to pay a little bit of money out of pocket to do that, but it's pretty good for like sleeping at night and not having to worry about, signing away your rights forever. I would say that serialization is always good, because you can advertise and you can sort of get a higher return by advertising because you have a series, and when people finish one book they can buy another one, and then you probably would lose less money on advertising. Like for instance, like when people see an ad, like maybe like 5% would probably click on it and read your book, but if you have a series, then maybe 50% of people who start your first book will read your second one, and that is pretty great. On some of these apps, there's some barriers for entry, like you have to apply to Radish. You have to get 100 subscribers on Tapas before you can get tips. And I think Inkit has a royalty program too, where they'll pay you for a certain number of views. I mean, it's good to diversify if you can, because you never know. Sometimes a book will take off on one platform and it'll tank on another one. So it's good to have many different eggs in many different baskets, I guess.
And I like that you said about sort of hooking the readers as well. So I guess with serialization, one of the advantages is that it could run for such a long time. You could have it run for years, and then they're in for life, because if they're saying I'll just read till it finishes, it might never end.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't tell them that.
I'm sorry, that was an industry secret. Everyone
Yes.
forget that if you're watching. Abby, let's go to you. So I'd just like to ask, what are some of your favorite serials? What do you think they get right? And where do you prefer to read and write your serials?
Yeah, well, I started kind of listening to podcast novels way back, before Wattpad was a thing even. And one of the first authors I discovered was Scott Sigler, and I really just enjoyed his he just freely podcasted them, and I kind of got addicted. And since then I found like basically a lot of authors that just write these really long ongoing epic series. I was a big fan of The Wheel of Time. Growing up, I was a big fan of the Oz series. And then in more recent years, it's like Drew Hayes. There's a Gamelit author called Shirtaloon. And there's just like there's just like a lot of really great things you can do with epic serialization. So, yeah, now unfortunately I haven't read as much as I should on Wattpad, mostly because I listen to books more than I read. However, there is a lot of really awesome talent on Wattpad, so I keep like a long list of novels I want to read, and then I just never do. But I do know that there is some great stuff here. And yeah, I mean,
To be continued, like a serial.
Yeah. Well, I guess like one more thing is like, unlike with traditional or standalone novels, it's like you can really dig into world building. Like if somebody spent 5 years on a world that they've built, it kind of shows, I think. Like you can really dig into some very deep themes doing it that way.
Absolutely. All excellent points. Althea, what are some of your favorite serials, and where do you prefer to read and write your serials?
Well, pretty much, nowadays when you say the word serial, people immediately think of Wattpad. But, serials started quite a long time ago. Phantom of the Opera, Great Expectations, World of Worlds. I mean, these were all once serials. I think also on Harry Potter, Game of Thrones are also serials. I mean, I think it's all about, getting lost in a world, having an engaging atmosphere, sympathetic characters, and also a diverse, cast of characters. I think in terms of writing it, I think it really helps to be able to schedule sort of releases. Like Radish allows seasons. They also allow you to sort of schedule it like years in advance. Tapas also allows scheduling, which is also really nice. I mean, Wattpad allows, a lot of interaction, so you can sort of get a feeling of what your readers think will happen next, and they'll sort of ask you, hey, does this person die in the next chapter? And you sort of have to say, oh, no comment, So in terms of reading, it's really easy on Wattpad to follow an author so that you get a notification when they update. I wish other, apps would do that as well. And pretty much I do most of my my writing on Wattpad because I have to. But anyway,
But you also, because you love it as well.
Yes.
Anna, what's some of your favorite serials, and where do you prefer to read and write them?
You know, I was just thinking some of my I have a first serial that it dawned on me just now. Tale of Two Cities, Mark Twain. I remember reading about how he used to write these little snippets for the newspaper every day, and that's why his books are mammoth books that I had to read in high school. So I didn't enjoy that so much, but I thought of that as a serial. But recently I have been doing serial reading for joy, and I picked up The Billionaire Surrogate I didn't pick it up, I picked up my phone and read that on Radish, and I can see where it hits all the marks, the trope, the subplots. It is now, I checked today, it is at season 96. So it just goes to show it can go on forever. So that for me, it really shows, hitting all the right marks. I do, as for where I'm doing my writing, or most of it right now is on Radish. However, I am working with another app. It's still kind of in development, so I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't know what's ever going to happen to it. But there, I do have something potentially lined up for Wattpad. We'll see how I can get that going. But one tip I might have forgot to say, always have enough material to post if you're posting on a schedule, because you may run out of material and then have nothing, and that really would upset a reader, I mean. So that, and one thing I do like about, and it's not to knock any other app, I like how Radish is, I go on their interface, I can follow it, I see all of the different options for reading. They have a lot of promotional opportunities that everyone can take advantage of. Easy to upload on the back end. And especially, I like that it's very transparent in terms of payment. You can always check to see where am I at, how am I doing, and you're not waiting for a royalty statement or from whatever app you are dealing with, because I hear some of them aren't quick on that. That's me rambling again. So that was the end of my.
Also, scheduling on Radish, my kingdom for scheduling on Wattpad.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we're kind of at the end of our sort of pre-made questions. So talk about being serialization. We're just going to wing it on the next one. But we've got a question from one of the people watching. I'm not sure who, so apologies that I don't have your name. But someone has said, if we write a romance series, is it okay to end in a cliffhanger and not have the happily ever after before the last book? So I guess they mean if you're writing, say, 3 seasons on Radish or a 3-book series on Wattpad, so there is eventually a happily ever after, but it's not necessarily at the end of every single book. How do you all feel about that? Let's go to Anna, because you're in the top of my screen.
Okay. I think if there's a happily ever, in terms of romance, I think if there's a happily ever after somewhere, it's okay, because you are drawing it out. If you have no one wants to read a happily ever after and then 100 chapters of them being happily ever after. Does that make sense? So you want to have a happily ever after somewhere. It just can be as far off as possible. If that answers the question. I think it does.
Althea, it does. Althea, how do you feel about it?
I think there are several books in the paid program where there isn't a happy ever after, but there's a sequel which sort of addresses it, and I think it's allowed as long as you intend to continue the story. So yeah, whatever, it's allowed, so it's okay.
You'll get there eventually. Abby, how do you feel?
I'm going to actually pass on this because I don't write romance.
Oh, would you like to hazard a guess, or shall we move on to another question?
You can move on to another question.
Okay, well, let's do a very quick one. Does every book have to end on a cliffhanger? So, Abby, let's let you have that one.
Every book or every season or every
Well,
chapter?
every book or every season. It depends, I guess, where you're writing. Cliffhanger ending for Anna. So season or book, it depends.
I would say,
Do they
I
all
mean,
have to
it's,
end on a cliffhanger?
you know what? Like I'd say, like it's a really delicate balance. Like they say, make it feel satisfying yet inevitable. You know that's the way you're supposed to end a traditionally published novel. And I think there's something to that where it's like with a cliffhanger, you do want to like keep a mystery in their mind or like have open up some questions so that they want to pick up the next one. But at the same time, you do want to have a little bit of resolution, enough so that they feel satisfied. Like that was worth reading. I definitely want to pick up the next one.
Absolutely. I wish we had more time for more questions, but sadly we are drawing to a close, and I'm going to apologize again for being so late, but please direct all complaints to my internet provider. So thank you, everyone. So if you could all check your chats at the end of this for the winner of the coin competition, which I'm sure Rodney announced. That will be when this closes. That will be announced. But like all good serials, we're going to leave you wanting more. So you can find another panel. Don't laugh at me being cheesy. You can find another panel next on Marketing 101 and branding, effective social media platforms and building your brand, and even remaining anonymous while doing it. So I should probably watch that. I have been the disembodied voice of Clarissa North. Thank you to Althea, Anna, and Abby, and thank you to everyone who has been watching and to Rodney for saving me at the beginning. You can find everyone here on social media and on Wattpad, and of course on Radish as well, and everywhere else where good serials are produced. So stick around for more panels, and that's goodbye to all of our panelists if they'd like to wave.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It's been wonderful speaking to you, and we'll see you at the next panel.
What is Writers Connect?
It's a community of writers helping other writers.
Most of us are Wattpad stars.
And that's the connecting thread.
Thanks for sponsoring us, Wattpad!
But we are writers first. It's what we do.
We write every single day.
Well, some of us do.
So we've decided to hold our own author convention.
We have panels organized by writers with topics we want to talk about.
Genre panels like romance, new adult, and vampires.
Industry panels like serial fiction, the craft of writing,
how to get an agent and keep one.
And we have author meet and greet sessions all online.
We don't just talk about it, we live it.
We're not a panel of experts selling books about how to do things.
We're writers, just like you, and we have experiences to share.
So connect with us. Maybe you learn a thing or two.
We write together, we thrive together.
Writers Connect, November 5th through 6th.